right, everybody, welcome back to another Friends for Life Midweek Mini.
Yellow.
We got some news here, some issues that have been going on that are a pretty big deal in the disability communities. Lawmakers push police reforms aimed at dealing with those with disabilities. Let's see. Federal lawmakers are sponsoring legislation aimed at reducing the chance police encounters with those with disabilities or mental health issues will end tragically. This is a law enforcement education accountability for people with disabilities, or LEAD initiative. Two bills that would divert some emergency calls away from 911 and towards human services and mental health support strategies. The package would also offer more training for police when they engage with people with disabilities or mental health issues. So that's interesting to me. How it's so hard because not all disabilities are visible.
Yeah.
It's how do you
Dude, it's scary.
Yeah, that's what
here in what we do, at least in the state of Ohio, and I'm sure it's certain ways in most places, but you are supposed to call for a CIT officer, and the CIT stands for Crisis Intervention Trained.
Okay.
So it's a specialty that some officers get. Now, I don't know, and Mr. Mayor, come on, let us talk. Let us talk. I don't know exactly how the funding goes for that.
Yeah.
You know, I should probably do a little more research just so I have an understanding. But I know if you don't specifically ask for that type of officer and they are not equipped, they will treat the situation as a typical situation. I know for Friends for Life, if you are equipped with certain types of trainings and stuff, I offer benefits and more finance for that skill. So I hope that is a situation that happens on that level. But I really think it's more important that it's actually a universal type of training, at least a few minimum hours. I mean, for our law enforcement in general, it should be continued education because they are working in the community. They have access to weapons immediately. This is, a reality that we need to look at. And I'm friends with the chief of police of my town. I'm friends with many other police officers in my town and the city of Toledo. And I believe they're capable, but it's everybody being taught the same. I mean, it's almost like healthcare in general. You know, are all of our DSPs being taught the same through each individual company? But that's where, in the sense of quote unquote reform, things come up. You know, it's not reform as in saying that somebody's doing something bad per se all the time. It's re-educating and growing.
Yeah, and this was all spawned, it looks like, Walter Wallace was shot and killed by Philadelphia police in October of 2020, and authorities say he ignored orders to drop his knife, and his family's lawyer said the family called for an ambulance to get him help with a mental health crisis, and the fatal shooting added to tensions between the police and city residents. Gosh. So how often do you think stuff like this happens? I mean, the news doesn't really report on this too often.
Dude, more often than you might think. I'm privy to some information about an individual. The client that was being served was a Caucasian male. The person serving him was he wasn't even African American. He was literally from Africa and here on a visa and everything else. And this individual, and again, no disrespect, I don't know what country he was from in Africa, but that's the best way I can explain it. But the client called the police saying that there's this black man in my house, come get him. He's trying to hurt me and all of this. The police came. The gentleman opened the door, very calm, cool, and collected, and he was treated as a hostile person when he's there just to service. And so that's scary. And this even happened, I think, before a certain situation. We got to definitely look up the link for this somewhere. But there was a guy helping a young man who had autism, and the gentleman, the client in that case was in a very tough spot. being very difficult, defiant, slightly aggressive, or highly aggressive, whatever the story lines out. But the end result, the man was laid out starfish style, saying, "Please do not shoot me." Now, this was an African American gentleman who was saying and telling the police that he was there to help this guy, who is eventually calmed down some. Out of nowhere, a bullet comes and pow, shots this man. And he asked, "Why did you shoot me?" And if I'm not mistaken, in the audio of that, you can hear the officer say, "I don't know." Like, literally, like, how do you...
Charles Kinsey is lying on the ground, hands in the air. Police are out of sight, pointing their guns. You can hear Kinsey trying to explain he's a healthcare professional. The man on the road next to him is his autistic patient.
As long as I got my hands up, they're not going to shoot me. This is what I'm thinking. They're not going to shoot me. Wow, was I wrong?
Minutes later, after the video ends, police shoot, hitting Kinsey in the leg.
And when he hit me, I'm like, I still got my hands in the air. I say, no, I just got shot. And I'm standing there, I'm like, "Sir, why did you shoot me?" And his words to me, he said, "I don't know."
North Miami's brand new police chief, Gary Eugene, says he's committed to transparency, but wouldn't say much beyond explaining why the responding officers might have been on edge.
A 911 call was received about a man with a gun threatening to commit suicide.
Now state authorities will take over the investigation.
When you shoot a man lying on the ground with his hands up, explaining to you the situation, and you shoot him anyway, something is not right with that picture. So we, as a community, as a total district, we're in shock.
So, this is not drawing a line in any kind of sand, saying that, I think one way or another, other than the line in the sand that we need to be better as humans and humanity, and realize, like, there are certain situations some people are not equipped for if they haven't been trained appropriately. So, yeah, man, I'm telling you, that was a tough story to see. I was shook.
Yeah. And it's hard because I have friends that are police officers. I have friends that hate police officers. It's just how it is. And everything's so polarized right now. It's pretty obvious. I don't even feel like that's a radical thing to say right now. Some people will take it that way, but whatever.
We don't care.
Yeah, whatever. We're all freaking crazy. But
if you're going to judge me on that, you don't even want to listen to our podcast. Like, I'm trying to help people, bro. We ain't got time for all that.
And I hear stories from my friends, a police officer, and, maybe it would be worth talking to him about this, because you never know what situation you're going to get into. You can chase a violent criminal and literally have to get into physical hand-to-hand combat, or you can come up to a house like that situation here in Toledo, 6 months ago or so in January, where the guy was live on Facebook saying, "I'm going to kill everybody. If anybody comes in this house, I'm going to shoot you." Yeah. And they were like, you have to drive to that as an officer. Imagine that is your job. Like, you're going into a violent home with a guy saying, "Anyone who comes here, I'm going to kill you," and you have to go there.
And this is exactly what I'm saying, though. Like, it's like, where's the thought process for the officer at that point? Are they just going to? Because again, man, if we're going to really look at the deep part of the DD field, that includes mental illness sometimes as well. A lot of people with DD have these dual diagnoses, dual diagnoses, but they have mental issues. And like, if you the number one thing on your mind is that you go in there and you're going to put down the threat, you might miss an opportunity to save a life, to give treatment, to give care. Like, those things really matter. So that's what I believe in, how the funding should be done. Is it really too much to ask that every officer take a partial course in social work? like we're again equipping people to take care of people, not only with weapons, but I mean, with our trust. So, I mean, that's a big deal. And again, I know it's not most of the officers' faults for some of these things. You know, some people come in with their own prejudices in any form or fashion. But to keep it on level on what we're discussing, that makes me 10 times scared for some of my African-American clients who might have to deal with some of this stuff or who have dealt with some of these things. I've sat in courtroom appealings saying like, hey, this is a good guy. He was going through some stuff. And actually, we've just had one of them on not too long ago, and I'm just so proud of how he's progressing through life. It's awesome.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's definitely bigger issues at hand that, you know, systemic issues that need to be changed for sure. There's no argument there, but, you know, what do you guys think? If you have any interesting comments on this, let us know in the comments below, either on YouTube or you can hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, any of that stuff. But, you know, we will let you guys dwell on this and think about it, and we'll put a link to the article that this is based off of from Disability Scoop in the links on both the podcast and the YouTube channel. And as always, thank you guys for watching or listening. If you can, head over to iTunes or Stitcher and leave us a rating or a review, preferably 5 stars, because, you know, that's how we roll, baby. And, you know, we'll be back next week with another Midweek Mini. And don't forget to check out our Medical Mondays with Dr. Craig Escuday and our full-length podcasts. We got them coming out every week. We got Monday, Wednesday, and Saturdays. Soon to be more coming at you. So thank you all so much. See you next week.